Hello, and welcome to David Taylor, the American Motors Guy. Okay, now in this video, we're going to be talking about AMC Literature. Okay, and I know most of y'all are going, what? Literature? Man, I ain't got time to read. All right. Number one, it's not all of it's just for your reading enjoyment. Some of it is for your viewing pleasure. Okay, so let's start off with how some people write about American Motors. Most of the time, these guys get out there, they're Ford guys, they're Chevy guys, they're Chrysler guys, whatever they are. Even some of the foreign people have written about AMC. And most of the time they say, well, this defunct company or this closed up company, and everything just seems to be so negative. And no credit given to American Motors for what they did accomplish in the time that they were around. Okay, so let's talk like books like this. All right, this is Classic Muscle. Now that looks really good because it's got the GTO on the front. Now we know that formula was stolen from the Rambler Rebel, right? Because it was. Now in this book right here, it's about 200 pages. And when you open it up, you're looking to see what AMCs are in here. And out of 200 pages, there may be 5. Maybe. If we're lucky. 5 pages on American Motors. And the photos, they're not that good. They're not that great. And it just peeves me, if that's the good word for it. It just really peeves me off just to know that things like this happen every day. Okay, so what do? You want to find a good book, you want to find something to read about on American Motors, well, you can always do the AMO magazine. Okay, well, we've talked about that in previous videos. All right, so what about other literature that's out there? Okay, well, there's a lot of good books. And my suggestion to most of you out there is there's a book that was published by American Motors, and it's called The American Motors Family Album. Now, this is the softback edition, and mine is actually coming apart. But it is a pictorial of all the AMC cars from 1902, before American Motors, before the Jeffrey was even established. But it's a pictorial, and it just gives you a breakdown of all the different AMCs and different stuff like that. And there they are, some Hudsons in there, some Nashes, and then we get into some of the early stuff. But it will actually take you back to 1902. And you open up, and there you have it. That's the very first experimental model of the Rambler. And then we have model A, B, C, M, all the way through. So this covers a lot of American Motors, and that was actually published by American Motors themselves. It is a great book. It is a great reference point. But if you're more into the 80s, which is the Spirits and the Concords and that sort of stuff, and the Eagles, they're not covered in that book. Okay, so what do? All right, well, there's plenty of other books out there. And there's plenty of other writers. And one of the writers out there, and I'm sure some of you've heard of him, is called Patrick R. Foster. Now, Patrick R. Foster is an outstanding writer. Number one, he's an historian first, because you can't write about anything unless you know the history of it. Right? Okay. So he's an historian, journalist, and a columnist. Columnist? Yes. He has a monthly column every single month in Hemmings Classic Car magazine. And he also has an Old Car Weekly magazine as well. Now, Patrick Foster is the voice of the independents. He's written about Studebakers. He's written about Packards. He's written about a lot of different companies that are no longer around. but he's also written a lot of stuff about American Motors. And Patrick Foster is probably, I'd say, the man about American Motors. He's probably knows more on the literature side of it than anybody. So if you have a chance, he has a ton of books out. One of his books is AMC Performance Cars, which is this one. That's probably one of my favorite books, because he has one writing in here that I just want to read it. A real small section here. It says, for too long, the AMC hobby has been a collection of separate states. They haven't always shared each other's passions or each other's enthusiasms. I think we've been too compartmentalized in our thinking. They're a Hudson enthusiast, Nash enthusiast, AMX and Javelin enthusiast. And the list goes on and on and on. But he's right. For the most part, you go to an AMC show and everybody is hanging out at the AMXs, or you have a group hanging out at the Spirits. Go around and look at all and everything that everybody appreciates and enjoys. And enjoy what you are partaking in, because it is a family. Nonetheless, we are all family when it comes to AMC. And that's what AMO is always trying to promote. It's a family atmosphere. If you're not a part of AMO, I suggest that you might join. And you can watch my other video on AMO membership. Now, let's talk more about the literature. Now, Patrick Foster has written a bunch of different books. And he actually has gotten a few. He's written one about Shirley Shanahan, the Drag On Lady. Now, Shirley, she's a card, let me tell you. So, Shirley has a great book out there with Patrick Foster. It tells a lot about her racing days and the car and a lot of different things. So it's a great book. And then Patrick Foster also has a book, Kenosha, the Jeffrey and the Rambler. And I guarantee you he used that family album book to help write that book, because the information in that book is outstanding. And you got to remember, people were sending in their photographs, 19-something, sending in their photographs of their families and their friends telling about this. And this was long before there was ever photocopy or any of these other things. They just sent their pictures in. They gave up a piece of their family heritage to American Motors. So that book is no longer in print. So the only time you can find it is a used bookstore, online sometimes. It's just not printed anymore. I wish someone would pick it up to try to do a reprint or recreate it. Now, as I was saying, Patrick Foster has written a bunch of different books on American Motors, AM General, and all of that sort of thing. So he knows about American Motors. He also has one on the Metropolitan. Now, he's not the only writer. There's one called Don Norris. Now, Don Norris has written a bunch of books about AMC as well. He's written one on the Gremlin, the Pacer. He's written one on the Matador Coupe. There's a bunch of different books out there for you to take on vacation, or for you just to sit down and enjoy some light reading and some great photographs. So I wanted to have a chance for everyone to get a chance to know where to get these books. Old Milford Press. OLDE Press. So it's Old Milford Press. OLDE Milford Press. You can find all of those books and more, and you can even, they have a few copies of the AMC family album as well. Now, one of the other books that Patrick Foster has written about, the American Motors Corporation, The Rise and Fall of the Last Independent. Now, this book is packed full of information, tells you a lot about what happened at the very end when AMC finally closed its doors and Chrysler had taken over. Now, there's also a lot of information in there about the union and what happened with the union and how things with the union and corporate just kind of didn't mingle quite right. Excuse me. It's fall. Goldenrod gets me every time. All right. Now, there's another book out there. If you're a racing fan and you love AMC Racing and a bunch of different things about AMC Racing, Bob McClure, this book right here. Now, Bob has written a heck of a book. This has a lot about the AMC and motorsports. It carries a lot. There's a lot of stuff in here about the SS AMXs and a lot of stuff on the Trans Am, the quarter mile, NASCAR, Bonneville, and even more. So, there's a lot of great literature out there for you to get your hands on, read, and I guarantee you'll enjoy it. Okay? Now, we have some other items on to talk about here. Now, this is a very small little handbook. And if y'all don't know what this book is, I'm about to tell you about it. This is called the Red, White, and Blue book. And this little book right here is a major tool. And you go, tool? Yep. When you break down the serial numbers, the model numbers, and all of that sort of stuff, it breaks it down for you and explains it. So that you know the door tags and the VIN number, the motor tag, and everything else, what those codes are. Because there it is, written. There's the codes. Tells you what the color of the interior should be. Gives you everything that you need to know. Goes to the final assembly number and the door tag and all of that sort of stuff. This is a great, great book to have if you're going to go out and buy an AMC, or you're going to restore an AMC, or you just want to have it for a reference point. It's a great book. And this was written by Frank Swigert. Now, Frank is a beloved AMC fanatic and nut. And thanks to Frank for putting this book out. He has other books as well. But you can find most of this stuff at Old Milford Press. And we can talk about a whole lot of other things when it comes to literature and American motors. But those are the main items, and those are the main guys who really put forth the effort to make sure that we get our history correctly. We all know how things are left out of our history books and how we're learning different things that happened in this country throughout the world that we were never taught or told about. So when you want the right information, you go to the right source. And these guys are the correct source in order to get your information and to make sure you do your project correctly, or it's great reading or great just sitting back looking at the pictures. And yeah, sometimes that's all we really want to do. But here's just a little video to talk about those things. I'm glad you joined me. Look out for the next video. We hope to have you on the next one. We're going to be doing a Pierre Cardin, and I have an old memory that I'll be sharing with everyone and be placing that video. So put your ear protection in for that one. I think it's my son, we were there. It was very, very loud. So I don't know how loud it is on the video, but we'll find out. All right, so be watching for that video as well. Okay, we'll see you on the next one. Later.